Alrighty, so next in Money Week, we've talked about many of the issues with money, and last time we talked about, well, what would happen if we just abolished money, got rid of it altogether. And so there was like three ways fundamentally that things could work without money. Either you barter, so that in between step that money takes, we'll just go without it, right? Two, gift. So there's no like transactions. You just give to someone and maybe they give it back. And then three being you just make it yourself, right? You don't have to buy it from anyone because you made it. Um, those things can all be done already with money. So removing money doesn't make any of those things happen more or less. They're just already here. Barter is essentially transactions, just more cumbersome, right? So it's not like you gained anything by having a barter system. You just saved the trouble of having to sell for money and then simultaneously find something you want to buy. Like, you just did both at the same time. Great, efficient, but still not any better. Gifting is, charity. That's what we already do. And self-reliance, well, you already do make stuff for yourself. Maybe we want you to make more for yourself so you're, not needing someone else to fill in the gaps as much. But, hey, that's already happening. And so today I want to talk about what money really is. Because that's something we've glossed over this entire time, and that's with a purpose. Because I want to talk about what money does and how it works before I say what it is. Because what money does, what we've been talking about all this time, is transactions. I buy something from you with money, right? That's what it is. That's all it is. And so, what am I getting in those transactions? Well, presumably something you have. Whether that is something you can do for me, or something you've made, or something that you bought that someone else made, and so on down the line. But somewhere, somehow, someone made the effort to have something, to do something. And so, what money really represents is people's time and people's effort. That I'm not merely buying something from you, but rather I'm buying someone, whether it's you or someone else, someone's effort that got put into making the thing the way it is. Whether that value was extracting it out of the ground, manufacturing it into something useful, or just delivering it to me. All of those things are valuable. And so I'm paying for all that. That's pretty much it. And this is the reason why money has a problem. It's because if money represents someone else's time and effort, then having money means that you own them. And you see, this is the entitlement I was referring to yesterday. That with this transactional relationship, I do something of value, and I demand compensation. I demand compensation. Because the only thing worse than a slave is an unpaid slave. And so if everyone is a slave to everyone because everyone is required to make money in order to get what they want or need, that's a pretty toxic relationship. That's a very toxic way to look at it. But you see, this is precisely why at the beginning of this week, when I read from the Bible, it did not say money was the root of all evil. It said the love of money is the root of all evil. Because it's not true that everyone is a slave just because we have money. It's not. Because you have options. I already listed off two options you have. You can give stuff, proving that they're not getting it because they own you or you owe them something. You're giving it to them because you want to, and that's what you want to do. And simultaneously, you're not getting because you own someone else and their work, because, you're able to purchase them for the day or for however long it took to make the thing you're buying. No, you're not doing that because you made it yourself. You own yourself, and so no contradiction. It's fine. And that's the truth of this whole situation with money. Is that money is not inherently bad. Nothing about these transactions are inherently bad. But it's very easy to fall into this toxic mindset where you say, I own this person. They should do it this way for me at this time because I have money. And you become entitled. Entitled to someone else's life. And so you end up treating them like a slave. This is the Karen meme, right? Give me your manager, right? I want to see your manager because I want things my way because I have money. I own you because I have money. That is a very toxic mindset. But considering money is literally a representation of someone else's time and effort that you get because you presumably put in some time and effort somewhere. Well, if that's the case, you can see why they think that way. It's understandable that they would think that you are a slave to them. Because, in a way, you're promising to give them service merely because they have a piece of paper that says, yeah, you should. And that's one way to see money. That's one way to see this whole economic system we have. But the solution is not to get away with the paper, to remove the paper, because oh my goodness, how terrible is that paper? The solution is to remove that mindset from people. Because the paper's not evil, it's paper. It's just stuff. Don't get so worked up about it. The real issue is those entitled people. The idea that you should sacrifice who you are, what you value, because someone else has money. The solution is to not sell yourself out. Because as long as you don't sell yourself out, then you still own yourself. Because it is fine to give to someone because you like them. It is fine to, trade with someone because, they have something you want and you want something that they have. There's nothing wrong with those things. Just remember, you are a person. You have value. And they're a person too. They have value. And that value is not economic. It's not because they can do stuff for you. It's not because they can make stuff for you. It's because they are a person. And because they are a person, they have value just because of that. And that's the real conclusion here. Is that you need to treat other people like people, regardless of whether they have money or not. And it's easy to say, well, this person doesn't have money. That must mean that they're useless, that they aren't providing value to anyone, and that's precisely why they don't have money. Well, that doesn't mean that they're not a person. It doesn't mean that they aren't valuable. It doesn't mean that they're not worth caring about. And so, if money is not inherently bad, it's just our mindset around it that's bad, well then why did I talk about all this stuff with inflation and deflation and maybe money should represent a real thing and all this stuff? The reason is because all of those things affect how you think about money. Because when money is inflating, it's a resource that slips through your fingers. And so you want to spend it as soon as possible. And that takes away your self-worth. Because you put in time, you put in work, and that's how you got that money in the first place. And now that you have it, inflation says the smart move is immediately to get it out of your hands. And that's not good for you. Because you spent time working and doing something in the world, changing it, hopefully improving it. And now when you look at the thing that you did, the good that you did in the world, you have to drop it. You have to toss it to someone else like a hot potato. And that fleeting feeling of how money just leaves, that's not good. It doesn't feel good to you. It's not respectful of your time and your effort. And so, when you constantly have this anxiety in you that says, I need to spend this money right away. I gotta invest it or spend it on something or just get it out of my hands. Just get it out of my hands. Well, when you think that way and act that way, then precisely what happens to you is you get anxious and you end up being entitled. Because you don't see those other people as people. Because you're so anxious that you won't be seen as a person. You are so anxious that you won't be valued, that you forget to value others. And that's the thing about, let's say, Karen, right? The Karen meme is all about Let me see your manager. I deserve to be treated well. I deserve this. I deserve that. People act that way because they're anxious and they're worried that they aren't valued. They want to feel important. They want to feel big because they're afraid that they're not. And so that's inflation. Reserve banking, it says that you finally did get money and you just set it to the side and say, oh, I feel so much better. Now I don't need to worry about what I'm going to eat on Friday because I got money that'll guarantee me food, right? Well, I might be fine on Friday. But a few months from now, well, what's going to happen is the bank's going to take that money and it's going to invest it, right? Lend it out to someone else. So that way your money can keep moving and keep doing stuff and go faster and faster and faster. Do you know why? Because we want to make sure that you can't sit still. You can't rest. You can't relax. We are going to raise this roof to the sky. Because we're going to take your economy and multiply it 30 times. You don't get to rest. You don't get to sit. You don't get to wait and be thankful for what you have. Are you kidding me? Because we're going to raise all the prices. We're going to raise everything. Things are going to move so fast, so quick, that you're not going to be able to keep up. And so you're going to be anxious and afraid that what if I slow down? If I slow down, then how am I going to live? And this is why so many people are so afraid of retirement. Because as soon as you retire, well, you're out of the workforce, you're losing your skills, you're becoming rusty. And chances are, if you're old enough, you're never going to get hired again, at least not at that same job. And so you're going to have to take a huge pay cut if you ever need to work again. And so you're filled with this anxiety that if I slow down, if I quit, I will never be able to get back to where I was. Because everything is moving so fast, so quick. Everything's going so... Everything. Everywhere, everything. It's confusing. And you can't keep up. Because you're just a person. You're not 30 people. You can't keep up with 30 times. That's why reserve banking matters. And in the same way, in the opposite direction, the deflation we talked about, it's to calm things down. That maybe if inflation is bad, if reserve banking and scaling up to infinity is bad and makes you feel anxious and worried, maybe deflation will do the opposite of that. Maybe it'll slow things down and make things easier. Maybe it won't. Like I said in that video, it's never really been tried. But it's worth talking about because maybe we can slow down and maybe we can be less anxious. And maybe once we're less anxious, we can take that time to treat the person across the counter like a person. That we won't be so worried about us not being treated with respect, that we'll actually have the strength to treat others with respect, the way they should be treated. Maybe we can spin this whole thing around and have the incentives be in the opposite direction. And maybe even if we just got rid of money altogether, maybe we'd be less anxious. Maybe you'd be more anxious. Not sure. But that is what this is all about. Money and all of these different things are confusing. They're not obvious. They're not easy to understand. If it were, then we wouldn't have economists, would we? And so, the important thing is to be able to ignore it. To be able to not worry about money. Not in the sense of, oh, you're so rich you don't even have to think about it, but in the sense that you can be secure that you have value. You can feel secure that because of you and the people around you, you won't have to worry about the essentials. And so the goal here, whatever you end up thinking in terms of what is good and what is bad, the goal should be always to have money be something you ignore. For it to be just a in-between step, an abstraction of more complicated things going on. It should make your life simpler and easier, not more complicated and not more stressful. That's what this is all about. Is that the love of money, having to think and care about money and where your money's going and what your money's doing and how much interest you're making and all of this stuff, having to care about that is what makes you a worse person. Having to care about who you get to get stuff from, about who you get to own for a day, right? Whose time do you get to buy? What stuff do you get to get? Worrying about all that stuff makes your life worse. But what makes you a good person, what makes you actually have a positive impact on the world, it's not money. It's the stuff you do. It's the way you act. That's how you make a change. Not money. And that is something worth thinking about.